Hello, I'm Dr. Kathleen Wills from Optimum Wellness Clinic in Epsom, Auckland, New Zealand. Today I'd like to talk with you about the mystery of the modern plague, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. This is a very common condition these days. You know 17 million people worldwide experience chronic fatigue syndrome? It's just incredible. And in New Zealand, there are between 15 and 20,000 people that suffer from this condition. So it's quite common. And it really has to do with burnout syndrome. It particularly occurs with women. And it's when women are trying to do everything. They're super moms, they're super wives, running around, dropping their kids off at school, taking them to ballet classes, soccer, you name it. They're burning the candle at both ends, basically.
Yeah.
And until one day they wake up and they just kind of hit a dead end, and they just can't even get out of bed anymore. So even in the United States, this disease is more common than leukemia, HIV, and lung cancer combined. So this is a pretty significant illness. But yet, a lot of times, there are no underlying medical conditions when they go to their GP. So women would go to their GP, test for thyroid, test for anemia, and nothing shows up, like there's nothing wrong. But yet, common conditions or common symptoms of this chronic fatigue syndrome are body aches, kind of fluish symptoms, a lot of fatigue, joint aches that transition from one joint to the next, and sometimes a swollen gland, a bit of a tender or sore throat. So kind of fluish, like borderline fluish symptoms, but yet there's nothing confirmed in the tests. But what really diagnoses this condition is that typically women, and sometimes men, suffer for 3 to 6 months or longer with this. So this is why we call it chronic fatigue. So what can you do for chronic fatigue? At Optimum Wellness Clinic, we have several alternative therapies that are quite effective to support chronic fatigue syndrome, although nothing can really cure it, but you can actually support your symptoms to reduce your symptoms. So what we would do at Optimum Wellness is some complete blood work. So we'd rule out any other underlying medical conditions first. And that would include an extensive hormone evaluation and looking at any underlying nutritional deficiencies. So we would probably follow that up with some recommendations for nutritional supplementation and hormone therapies. If your hormones are imbalanced, this can make you feel tired and unable to get out of bed. The other thing we would look at is your gut. So how are you absorbing nutrients, and what can we do to make sure that your intestines are properly absorbing everything they can from their food and from their supplements? We would also look at an allergy test to rule out any other factors for swelling or inflammation that could be causing pain in the joints, etc. We'd look at your diet. So we'd really sit down and I'd partner with you to look at every day of your diet and how we can tweak it just a little bit to make it a more healthy diet that supports your symptoms. And also, I'd like to recommend I share with people information on support groups, because with this type of condition, often people can end up feeling socially isolated, depressed, and unable to work, so it can leave them in quite an isolated state. So I really like to recommend to people there are some online support groups you can join, and I can talk with you about that, as well as some in-person support groups as well, locally in Auckland. So if you'd like to make an appointment to see me to work out a CFS, or chronic fatigue syndrome management plan, I'd be happy to do so. And I'd also be happy to work with your current GP and any other therapists as you see fit to discuss with them your management plan. Oh, and one further treatment we also offer for people with chronic fatigue syndrome that's actually quite unusual in New Zealand. It's quite common in the United States where I trained, but that's IV nutrient therapies. So with IV nutrient therapies, we actually inject nutrients directly into the bloodstream so that if you are having problems absorbing these nutrients in your stomach, then we can get it straight into the bloodstream. And that really gives a lot of CFS sufferers an instant lift, and really helps them to decrease those feelings of fatigue. So yes, if you'd like to make an appointment with me, call Optimum Wellness Center at 623-6234, or get a hold of me on my email or website, Kathleen at drkathleenwills.com. Thank you.